So in this video, we're going to take a look at how to find the length of a side of a right angle triangle using trigonometry. Now, in the previous video, we were introduced to some relationships, and they were as followed. The sine of an angle is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. The cosine of an angle is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and the tangent relationship of an angle is going to be the opposite over adjacent. Now, I explained in the last video as well that we can write these as these sorts of triangles, but I haven't really gone into depth about why this is useful. Now, hopefully you've seen these sorts of triangles before, perhaps in your science lessons, but they help us to work out a relationship between three different variables. So let's just quickly understand one of these. So let's just look at this SOH relationship. Remembering that S is sine of theta, O is the opposite, and H is the hypotenuse. So we know that S is O over H. That's kind of the definition, look, is right up there. The sine of theta is the opposite over the hypotenuse. But this triangle also tells us that if I wanted O, that is going to be S multiplied by H. And if I wanted H, well, that is going to be O divided by S. And all three of those things are true, okay? And a quick way of understanding that is if I was looking to find one of them, I could cover it up and it reveals what to do. So for example, if I wanted to find H, I cover up the H and I have one thing over the other thing. So it's like there is a little divide sign. One over the other means divide, opposite divided by the sine of the angle theta. That is exactly what happened, okay? So you just have to cover up the one that you want, and you are going to be able to find something out. For example, if I wanted the opposite, well, I cover up that one, and this is the two things next to one another. So when they're next to one another, they mean multiply. Opposite is the sine of the angle times the hypotenuse. So we can use this to help us to understand and use trigonometric functions. Okay, so we do need to remember those triangles in order to do the questions, though. So you'll have to commit those to memory. Okay, so let's get started. Let's have a look at A in this one here. We've got to find the missing value X. I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide of how to do this. So step one, label the side you've got and the side you're trying to find. So we are trying to find the opposite, O. We have got the hypotenuse, there we go, 13, and we are trying to use an angle theta of 40 degrees. So just make sure we know which angle we're looking at. Okay, step number two. We need to write out our three relationships, and I like to use the abbreviation SOHCAHTOA, which you may have heard before, written like that, sort of as triangles. And now we can have a think about which one of those, sine, cosine, or tangent, we need to use. So which one has the O and the H in it? Of course, it is the sine ratio. So it's here, look, okay? This one has that in it. So if I rewrite that now as a triangle, SOH, we now think step number three, well, which is the one I'm trying to find? And we cover it up. So I am trying to find the opposite. So I'm going to cover that up, and that reveals to me what to do. I'm going to do S multiplied by H. And what that means in our question is S stands for the sine of the angle. So our angle is 40 degrees. So we do sine of 40. And that's going to be multiplied by the hypotenuse. And that's 13. Now check on your calculator that you can do this. So use your scientific or graphical calculator. If we work that out, we should get 8.36 centimeters rounded to two decimal places. Okay, let's have a look at B. B is very similar, okay? So I just want to go through this again. Step number one, label up the sides and the things we have. So we're looking again for the opposite. We have got the hypotenuse. We are looking at this angle here. And then we recognize and we write out step number two, the three relationships. And just like last time, this has got an O and a H in it. So just like last time, we're going to use SOH. Step number 3, cover up the thing we're trying to find. We're trying to find the opposite. And because the S and the H are next to one another, we multiply them. So S stands for the sine of the angle, so sine 45. And H stands for the hypotenuse, which we know is 18. We multiply them together, we get 12.73 centimeters. Okay, let's go on to some different ones now to make sure we can apply this, maybe using the cosine or the tan as well as the sine relationship, and let's see what happens. So, number 3, we have to find the hypotenuse for both of these two questions. So I am going to start off by labeling that as x, so we're really clear about what we're trying to find. Okay, so following the same process, the first thing to do is to label the sides. So we are trying to find the hypotenuse. We have got the opposite. Okay, so we write out our angle relationships, SOH, CAH, TOA, and we look and we decide which one of those has an O and an H in it. Well, of course, it is the sine ratio again, so we write that out, SOH, and we cover up the one we're trying to find. So in this case, we're trying to find the hypotenuse. So if I cover the hypotenuse up, I've got one thing over the other. Well, that means I'm going to need to divide. So my answer is going to be the opposite, which is 8, divided by the sine of 35 degrees. So if you jump on the calculator and do that, you should get 13.95 centimeters. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, let's do B. So in B, let's label up those sides again. We are again trying to find the hypotenuse. So let's write H for that missing variable x. And then we have got the adjacent this time because we're next to the angle. So carrying on with our process, we're going to write out SOH, CAH, TOA, and then we can see which one of these 3 relationships has an A and a H in it. Of course, this time it's different. It's the cosine triangle. So we're going to write out CAH. Okay, now we cover up the one we want. So in this case, it's the H. We're trying to find that missing hypotenuse. And this tells us we've got one thing over the other. So it's going to be 3 divided by the cosine of 70 degrees. Okay, so type that in your calculator. You should get 8.77 centimeters. Don't forget, you've got to press the cosine button, not the sine button here. All right, okay, so let's just have a go at a couple more. Now, let's make up a couple of questions to make sure we've had plenty of examples of how to do this. So in this case, I'm going to give you a right-angled triangle. I'm going to say that we've got an angle of 51 degrees there. We're trying to find this one, and we have this length here. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to label up those sides again. So this time we have to find the adjacent because it's next to the angle, and we're given the opposite because that 11 is opposite the angle. We're going to write out our trig relationships again. SOH, CAH, TOA, and now we're going to choose the one that has an O and an A in it. That's going to be our tangent relationship. So we write out the triangle TOA, and we make sure we cover up the thing we're trying to find. So that's the A, and so we can clearly see we've got to do the opposite divided by the tan of the angle. Well, that is going to be 11 divided by the tan of 51. So you can type that into your calculator. Make sure you press that tangent button. That is 8.91 centimeters. Okay, final example we're going to have a quick look at is we'll do one more. Let's draw this out and you can have a think about this one as well. Excuse my poor picture. That is a right angle there. We've got 24 degrees there. This is 23 centimeters. And we're going to try and find this angle here. Okay, so sorry, this length here. Okay, step number one, as always, is we're going to label up these sides. We've got the hypotenuse and we're trying to find the adjacent. We've got the angle of 24 degrees. We write out SOHCAHTOA. Which one of these has the adjacent and hypotenuse in? It is the cosine relationship. So we're going to write that one out, CAH. And again, we're going to cover up the thing we're trying to find. So we're covering up the A in this sense. So that reveals to us two values next to one another. So it's the cosine of the angle multiplied by the hypotenuse. So I'm going to have to do the cosine of 24 degrees multiplied by that hypotenuse, which is 23. And if I work that out, I get 21.0 centimeters. Okay, hopefully that is enough examples of how to work out the length of a side using trigonometry.